This gaming PC costs you only $450. Let's go through the steps I took to create this budget gaming PC, but also offer some alternatives to every component. You don't have to copy this PC exactly, but this should be a good jumping off point to give you some ideas of what pricing is at lately for budget parts, and what kind of performance you can expect. Is it possible to build a PC for only $450? You can do it by being smart with your money, doing your research, and trying to find some great deals. As always, everything mentioned in this video will be linked in the description. This week, I wanted to start with the case. This is the Deepcool MaCube 310, and despite the stupid name, this is actually an amazing deal on Newegg for a cool $37. It might be one of the best deals I've seen on a new case in a year. Most cases at this price point usually just suck, but this guy really surprised me. The tempered glass panel is sturdy and uses magnets to attach to the side of the case. There's ample room for cable management, has a built-in fan hub, and there is even an anti-sag bracket for giant GPUs. These amenities are usually only found in premium cases, so it's awesome to find in a budget case. My only two complaints are, I wish the front panel had a mesh to get some more airflow going through the case, and the fact that it only comes with two non-RGB fans. I would have loved to get at least 4 fans, but for $37, I'm very happy with it. If you wanted to get something with more airflow, the Corsair 4000D Airflow goes on sale for about $75 sometimes. It's actually one of my favorite cases of all time. The power supply I chose for this build is a semi-modular 600 watt EVGA BQ. Now what does semi-modular mean? Well, that means the 24-pin ATX cable and the 8-pin CPU power cable are fixed into the PSU. But everything else is modular, like the GPU power pins, SATA, Molex, that kind of thing. The EVGA BQ is rated C on the PSU tier list, which is good enough for me at this price point. Frankly, try to choose a good high-tiered power supply that fits inside your budget. If you want something a bit cheaper, a Thermaltake 500 watts is always an available choice. And for something a little higher in the tier list, a 650 watt Asus TUF is very reliable. Moving on to storage, I'm equipped with a 128 gig SSD from Silicon Power and a 1 terabyte spinning hard drive from Western Digital. Okay, pause that. We need to talk about this. I don't actually recommend you buy these. 128 gigs is kind of a joke at this point, and you should never under any circumstances buy one for a personal build. I have these because I was able to get a good deal on a bundle from r/hardware swap that included a power supply, motherboard, CPU, RAM, and these 2 storage drives for $240 shipped. I'm including them in this build to show an example of bundling items from sellers to get better deals, but in reality, you should just buy a 500 gig NVMe drive. It's enough space to get you started, and you'll have much faster boot speeds than a standard 2.5-inch SSD. Feel free to upgrade to a 1 terabyte NVMe drive for double the storage for less than double the money. The only reason you should be using a 128 gig SSD is if it was free or if it was bundled with other things. Do not go out and buy just a 128 gig SSD, please. The motherboard I got in this bundle is an Asus Prime Z490P. I was kind of scared I got scammed when I opened the package because we had agreed on a Z490 board, but the box was for a Z390 board. Luckily, the right motherboard was inside. This thing is an absolute top tier monster. Dual M.2 slots, 4 RAM slots, heavy VRM heatsinks, and it's also an ATX form factor for more expandability. I love this board because it leaves open a lot of room for upgrading down the line. This thing can handle a 10700K without issue, has NVMe Gen 3 support, and can even overclock our RAM to its highest rated speed. If you want something a little cheaper, you can grab an Asus Prime H410M on Amazon Warehouse for about $57, and it'll perform similar in gaming, but you'll be missing out on some of those amenities. Speaking of overclocking RAM, I was sent 16 gigs of DDR4 RAM from SK Hynix that are rated at 3200 MHz. Now looking at these things, they don't look like anything special, just 2 normal looking RAM that will perform just as good as anything with similar speeds. But I want an excuse to use this stupid thing I bought a year ago. This is an easy DIY RGB RAM kit that is 100% optional. But for $20, you can add a heatsink and addressable RGB to your otherwise boring RAM. You just apply the thermal pad and slide your stick in between the plates, and that's pretty much it. Only buy this if you have old RAM lying around, or if you get it in a bundle like I did. Otherwise, just buy RGB RAM by itself, like the T-Force Delta line, or something cheaper like the Oloy Black RAM. Luckily, the motherboard I got has 4 RAM slots, so I can double up my RAM if I need more in the future. By the way guys, I recently did a challenge where I used my Steam Deck as my only computer for a week to see if it was a better value than building a budget gaming PC. The results were actually pretty surprising. You can check out that video here. Our CPU is an oldie but a goodie. The classic i3-10100F from Intel. I'm sure you guys are tired of seeing this thing, but it really is the best bang for the buck performance available right now. 4 cores, 8 threads, good single core performance, good thermals, and is readily available on Amazon for $60. If you want something a little beefier, you can grab an i5-10400F for more cores and threads with a higher boost clock. Feel free to use the standard Intel stock cooler, but for only $20, I picked up the ID Cooling SE214XT. It's a more impressive cooler by every margin, and looks probably 100 times better. If you upgrade your CPU down the line, you can keep this cooler and it'll be sufficient for your cooling needs. Last but not least, let's move on to what you've all been waiting for, the graphics card. This is the Radeon RX 6600, a 1080p powerhouse GPU from AMD. This thing is such a great value. Even though it's a relatively newer card, you can buy it new for around $220 on sale these days, but I was able to get this used off eBay for $167 shipped to my door. This thing can push 1080p to its max, and even play a lot of mid-tier games at 1440p at reasonable frame rates. If you would rather go NVIDIA, and I don't blame you, a comparable card would be something like an RTX 2060, but you'll pay a premium for that Team Green tax. Well, we have all the components ready to go, so let's build this thing. The gaming rig is looking fantastic, which just goes to show that you don't need an insane amount of money to have a good looking machine. Optionally, if you want to spend a few more dollars, feel free to use PSU cable extensions, stupid Funko Pops, RGB fans, or even decals on the outside of the machine. I had some leftover fans lying around I installed, but you can buy some black fans on Amazon for practically nothing. Let's move on to performance. I think many of you know I'm not a huge benchmark fan, but I needed some way to show you the performance of this rig. I ran through some popular games and was pretty impressed with the results.
GTA 5 on medium settings ran very smoothly at 140 FPS, which is much better than the 1060 fared in my last budget build. Hitman 3 benchmark did pretty well, averaging out to 120 FPS during medium settings at 1080p. Valorant did awesome, of course, during a standard match with 225 FPS average at 1080p low. Why do people benchmark this game again?
On top of that, I did run through some other games for y'all. I'll go ahead and throw them up on the screen now. In all the games tested, we saw some amazing FPS and 1080p resolution. Let's talk about the cost of the machine. Pricing this machine out was difficult because of that bundle I used, but the price for me, without the optional items, came out to just over $450. I tried to spec out what the machine would be priced individually without bundling, and the numbers came out pretty similar, so this is 100% a machine you can use as a framework for whatever budgeting gaming build you're creating soon. If you do decide to build a similar spec machine, just remember to build a machine that is within your budget and will fulfill whatever your needs are. And again, I'll throw links down to literally everything I've talked about in the description below. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked this video, please like it and subscribe to my channel. I've got a lot more budget gaming videos coming in the pipeline and would love for you to come on this journey with me. My name is Jason. See you later.